there is a lack of accountability throughout the organization. And this is not the first time we're saying this. This is not the first time we're hearing it, but it just smacks you in the face every single night when you watch the same players go out there and fail. You watch the same thing over and over again. The lack of accountability from this organization is mind-boggling. And really, to me, BT, the Yankees just aren't that good. And I don't know if they really acknowledge the fact that they aren't that good or even care enough to really get better.
Well, I mean, listen, poor play, and they are playing poorly, is always made worse by a lack of engagement. And right now, the Yankees don't look very, very locked in at all. And I know that this isn't the case. I know that what I'm about to say, I say this more for effect, because as much as the Yankees have issues, I would never disrespect them to this. I would never disrespect any pro athlete to this extent. But it seems like we wanted more than they do.
Right.
And I know that that's not the case again. But you watch the Yankees, and whether it's Verdugo loafing up and down the bases or the play the other night on Tuesday night where Torres failed to keep the ball in the infield, I feel like 3 or 4 times the past week we've seen a pitcher sail one to the outfield, either on a bad pickoff throw or a little dribble or little bleeder in front of the plate or the mound. And even Aaron Judge, the great, amazing, all-time Aaron Judge, whether it's loafing after a ball in center the other night or throwing to the wrong base, which enabled somebody to tag up from first, they don't seem like they really care about snapping out of this.
See, for me, it's less about the players and their care, although you bring up excellent examples right there. My theory or thinking what the Yankees don't care is the organization. They've seen the same stuff year after year after year, and they continue to run it out there. They continue to make excuses, whether it's Cashman, whether it's the manager, and they don't acknowledge the reality of the situation, which is that, and thankfully a reporter asked Boone last night flat out, like, hey, you keep saying, he didn't say this, I'm paraphrasing and wishing what I could say to Aaron Boone. Like, you keep saying everything's right there in front of you. And yes, technically speaking, it is. However, since June 1st, Aaron, which is 3 months plus, you are under 500, a game under 500. Like, what makes you think that this is going to? Boone finally acknowledge it by saying, hey, we got to be better. Simple as that. Yeah, well, thank you. But it's been a lack of accountability overall. Clay Holmes has struggled pretty much all year long. Even when he was getting the saves and getting the job done early in the year, he was playing with fire, and you can see that it was trouble brewing there. You could see the lack of depth in the Yankee lineup, the inconsistencies in that lineup, the inconsistencies in the starting rotation of the bullpen. And yet they just ride it out, and maybe because their record is what it is, and they think they're better than what they are. But I don't think the Yankees organization cares enough to build a winning team or to go to that extent to build a winning team or a better team.
Well, those are a couple of different conversations. I would respectfully disagree. I do think that they certainly care and that they want to build the championship team. I think they've forgotten how. I think they've forgotten the roadmap to get there. The game's changed a little bit. I'm not so sure that the Yankees have organizationally maybe adapted to those. It's a fluid sport, just like football. When all of a sudden you had the run and shoot offense, you got away from the ground and pound, and you either had an innovative offensive mind, kind of changing things, or you did not. And those who did not, like the Jets, over the years, they got left behind at the altar. So you've always got to change. Same with the NBA, with the Warriors shooting 40, 50 threes a night. If Tom Thibodeau didn't, now they're not throwing 50 up a night, but if he was married to his older convictions as coach, then I don't think the Knicks would have blossomed into this offensive team. And I know they still play defense as well. The point is, you've got to change with the times. I don't think the Yankees have. I think they've tried with certain things. I don't think they've been very effective with certain things. But I'm separating, Sal. This is my greatest point here. I'm going to separate the imperfections of the roster, which in certain spots are fairly obvious and abundant, and really focus on the lack of hustle. Like, if you want to win, you've got to be programmed to compete at the level in August and May and June and April. You can't just flip it on in October. And do we expect, let's not be fools, do we expect suddenly Torres to become this locked-in, focused hustler? The answer is no. Do we expect Verdugo to do that? No, the answer is no. And by the way, as Verdugo's loafing up and down the first baseline again, Jason Dominguez is, again, mashing balls into the seats in the minors. I don't know what they're doing.
Right, okay, but all those things that you just said stem from a lack of accountability.
From the manager or the organization? Because they're two different things, though. But Boone's got to be more direct about this.
Okay, well, fine, but if you're Brian Cashman sitting there watching this team all year long, why is DJ LeMahieu still there? Why is Gleyber Torres still on this roster going into the year, let alone midway through the year? Because they just sit there and say, well, okay, well, analytically or whatever they're saying, this is our better value. What second baseman are we going to get that can do this better than Gleyber for this value? I don't know what the excuse is with LeMahieu, but there's got to be some asinine excuse, but there is no accountability. So if I'm LeMahieu or I'm Verdugo and I'm saying, well, I'm getting my job anyway, like maybe they don't feel the need to hustle and to go to that extra extent. I don't know what the players' individual issues are, but I know that there is a lack of accountability in the entire organization. It is front and center on display every single night, every single game, because they don't make any changes.
Think about this, human nature, right?
Yeah.
When you're locked in, let's just say, and, this is never the intention, but we're human, and there's certain shows that are better than others, right? There's certain segments that are maybe more focused than others. Maybe sometimes you gotta, it maybe the audience can't necessarily tell, but you and I can tell. We've been doing this for a long time. I promise you, if we have one of those loose segments, which we really fight not to, I can promise you, forget about the next show. The next segment, we are coming in like we're going to war. And not to trivialize war, but in the radio sense, like we are just uber focused and absolutely hell-bent on making sure that doesn't happen again. What happened 2 nights ago? The Yankees implode. They have an ugly meltdown, maybe the worst loss of the season, which we dissected. I'm not going to go through it again. We know how it ended with Clay Holmes, but for a multitude of reasons, they lose. And then they come out against a team that's not even good in a series-defining game. You win the game, you win the series. You lose the game, you lose the series, and they don't even play hard.
I just
think about that.
It's just been going on for months. I am thinking about it.
It seems worse lately. It seems worse lately. Verdugo's lost.
It would be worse if the Orioles were actually good. The problem is nobody there. Nobody in the American League is any good. I don't care what their records say or what people think. We're watching the Yankees, who are supposed to be one of the best teams in the American League, if not of baseball, for 3 months. This is what they do. And these are bad teams. I've been hearing from other people, oh, the Yankees are going to get hot now. Oh, they got the Rockies. Oh, they got the Nationals. Oh, they got the White Sox. Oh, they got the Rangers, whatever the schedule may be. And yet they keep losing these series. And they can't put anybody away. They can't sweep a series. They've been a team that is under 500, a game under 500 for 3 freaking months now. At some point, they got to realize, hey, you know what? Stop relying on hope. Like at least Boone last night. Hoff, do we have the quote from? Did you see this, BT?
I watched some of the press conference.
Play the soundbite here, Dover Hoff, with Boone last night. At least to me, saying like, "Hey, we got to be better," instead of just simply saying, "Well, everything's out there in front of us." Go ahead, Dove.
Aaron, just 22 games remaining. You've mentioned several times we've got to be better in several areas. Why do you believe they're going to be better after losing 6 of 9?
Well, I mean, along with that, we got to have perspective. Like we are, right there with every opportunity to reach our hopes and dreams, and that's because of the season we've had as a whole. So we've put ourselves in position to go grab this thing, but if we want to grab it, we gotta play our best ball and put our best foot forward here, with, like you said, 22 to go. Like we gotta, this.
Just say it.
Right now, that's all that matters. We got to get it.
Just say it.
Now that was the bad quote.
Wait, you
from
think
Boone.
that's a good quote?
No. He said before that we need to be better. That was the quote where he's basically saying the same thing again. That it's all out there in front of us. Now before that he said we need to be better. The reporter asked him a question.
Yeah.
Hey, you're 40
that
and
was
40.
Meredith. So was somebody else you're talking about.
Somebody else. You're 40 and 41 since June or whatever that record is.
So they referenced the long stretch. I didn't hear that part. Okay.
Specifically June 1st. Dove, go ahead, play that.
We got to do better than that. I mean, we got to play better than we are right now. We've lost a few series here in a row that we've had chances to win all 3 of them. Obviously could have had a couple here. So we know we got to be better than this if we want to, get to where we want to go.
So that was from a question where the reporter specifically asked the June 1st reference that we've been using here, saying you're a game under 500 since June 1st, and then he said we need to be better. Obviously, we lost a couple of series. Then Meredith asked him the question. I don't know the exact order, but I believe Meredith one came after that, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Well, how are you going to get better? And he says the same thing. Like, basically, it's all right there in front of us.
Yeah, that's not inspiring to me at all.
How about about you do something about it? Like, cut DJ LeMahieu for starters.
But that's not a Boone thing. To be fair to Boone, that's not a Boone thing.
Okay, but then it's a Yankee thing. I'm just saying a lack of accountability. And then even yesterday with the closers were, we got to get creative. You got to get creative. Dude, there's 20 games to go. What are we doing here? Do you actually care? Not just Boone. This is for everybody. Do you, to your point, like that's the whole point of the start of the show. Do you actually care about winning? Because it doesn't seem like the Yankees do.
Okay, so, and one of the first things I said today is I'm not going to disrespect these players or baseball lifers and say that we wanted more than them. That's patently offensive, and I'm not going there. However, I do think, at least behind closed doors, I do think that Aaron Boone asserts his message, whether it's with Torres or Verdugo or sloppy fundamental. I don't think that he ignores it. But when it still resurfaces, what I will say is the message is not getting received.
Right.
And that's almost as dangerous as not even addressing it.
Right. Which one's worse? Like, he doesn't have to tell us.
It basically equates to the same thing.
We don't care what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah, show me.
Right. What we care about is the results.
Yeah.
And the results aren't there.
They looked like they were, honestly, the Yankees last night and the night before looked like they were Stump Merrill's Yankees. More talent, but in terms of what I mean by that is, hey, it's September. We got no shot. We're punching the ticket. We're almost on a cruise. They didn't look like, and I know they do, but they're not projecting it, and that's all that matters.
And you can't just, and we'll get to the calls here in a second, you can't just look at the record and say, well.
No, I'm with you on that at this point.
Because most of that record, the good part of it, is based off of what they did in April and May.
Yep.
That's a long time ago now. This is not a 3-week stretch. This is a 3-month stretch where they're a game under 500.
Yep.
BT, I was thinking about it too. We'll have some fun with the over-unders, whatever, as we get closer to it. But
you'll have some fun.
Well, the Yankees might not even get their number.
They'll get the number. I still believe they will.
There's 22 games left.
I know.
They're not getting close to 100 games.
No, they're not getting near 100. That's for sure.
They're not getting 95. They're not winning 15 of 22 down the stretch here.
What was the? Well, they could win 15 out of 22.
Well, based on what though?
Based on the fact that they still have some stars.
Okay, but my point.
I'm not saying I'd bet on it, but they could.
Right, but my point is that for 3 months they've played a game under. So why now do we think in the next 20 games plus the postseason? Is it going to flip the switch? They're going to be dangerous because they have Cole, because they have Judge, because they have Soto, and in the baseball playoffs now anything can happen. But the reality is, how could you believe in this team if you watch them every night where there's just
the belief's drying up. Let me be clear about that. It's not and I never had I know we'll get these calls. I never had unwavering belief. Obviously, we were all energized by the start. We're sitting there saying, man, think about this team. What happens when Garrett Cole comes back? What happens when Jason Dominguez is inserted? Like, there were things we were thinking about that. And and Volpe was playing amazing. So we figured, okay, Volpe 2.0, it's going to be a very different statistical line at the end of the season. Now, things have changed for a multitude of reasons, but I think that the Yankees, you flip a coin. They can beat the Royals, they can beat the Guardians, they can beat the Orioles, they can maybe beat the Astros, or flip the coin. They could lose to the Royals, they could lose to the Orioles, they could lose to whomever. Who knows what's happening in 3 weeks? I don't know.
BT and Sal on the Fan, our friends at Town Fair Tire. Remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Greg is in Rahway. What's up, Greg?
Good morning, BT. Sal. Glad to talk to you guys this morning.
Thanks,
Sal,
buddy.
You were right about the accountability. I'm downtrodden with sports. They're beating the hell out of me now. I listen to you guys all day long. It's like the same thing. I don't think the guys make this much money. What do they care? They're young. They get all this money. You're all millionaires. And there's no heart to them anymore. I think they get the money and that's it.
Well, Greg, can I jump in for a second? I'm going to ask you a personal question. How old are you, Greg? Honestly.
I'm going to be 77 next month.
God bless you, man. I love that you're still locked in. Love that you call us. We really appreciate that. My dad's 81. His birthday's coming up in a few days. Still plays golf. Still sound mind. Still very, very good, right? He's got a similar mindset to Greg. But that doesn't mean that they're right. I think that and that's why I asked the age. Like, it's easy to sit here and say, well, in my days, not that my dad says this, but I'm sure some old timers do. Mickey Mantle was cutting down Christmas trees, and Willie Mays was selling insurance just to supplement the income. I understand it's a different economic time, and the gap between fan and superstar has never been this wide. And the sad thing is, it's only widening. but to, like, in one large, spell, cast this aura of detachment from their craft, I'm not going there. I don't think that's fair to young players. I don't think that applies to – I think it applies to less than it does more.
I don't think it's just a generalization of players. You can't say that. We watch other teams.
But that's what Greg was saying.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I disagree with him. I don't think it's just about the money. I think it's about the individuals. And it's on the Yankees and each individual team to figure out which guys they want, which guys they think are going to be lollygagging for whatever reason, and get rid of them. Or which guys can't perform. Like, I don't think DJ LeMahieu is a lack of effort. I just think he's washed.
Yep, me too.
And he's been washed. Gleyber Torres has been, mentally not in the game since he's been in the big league.
And they allowed it to get worse.
Verdugo has had an awful season here.
He hasn't, though. He's had an awful few months. That's a weird one.
Yeah.
Think about the first moment. Judge was bad.
Okay, but
who was it? Soto, Verdugo, and a little bit of Cabrera, and obviously Volpe.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about since that hot start where they were succeeding when he was in the cleanup
I know,
spot.
but how do you lose energy? He was an energy guy.
He's been one of the worst players in baseball,
I know.
statistically speaking.
But don't you think there's a difference, performance versus engagement? Verdugo doesn't look like he cares all of a sudden.
Yeah, but I think if you're playing that poorly, he could just be beaten down. Like, you know how sometimes you get in a rut, whatever it may be in life. And look,
I get it.
Hey, he's a pro. He's got to get out of it. Or, more importantly, the Yankees got to figure out, hey, he's out of it right now. How do we get him back with it? Or what do we do to change it? Because we can't keep running him out there.
It's called Dominguez. That's what you do.
Well, they actually have an answer, and they don't want to go to it. Larry's in East Side. What's up, Larry?
Hey, Larry.
Fellas, what's going on today?
Oh, good.
Good. Listen, BT, you've been spot on with this team all year. I think they have the talent to win. I just don't. I feel watching them, even I watch a lot of baseball. I feel like it's almost they're starting to be like, it's all right, we're going to get there. It's all right, don't worry about it, what we're going. It's all right, we're going to walk in and we're going to be all right. We got Soto, we got Judge, we're going to be okay. It's almost, you're asking them to get rid of, what's his name? The older player. That, number one, you're 100% right. That's not on the. Yeah, that's not on the manager. That's on the GM, and that's a hard thing for the GM to do. He's supposed to make that decision because the guy shouldn't be here right now.
By the way, that's not even a Cashman thing. That's a Hal thing. I mean, to eat that kind of money, you got to run it up the flagpole. I'm sure Cashman kicked the tires, and I'm sure on some level it was said, no, let's try to squeeze something out of it before we do it.
Yeah, but then that's back to the point, lack of accountability.
Yes, I agree. And as far as the Mets, listen, the Mets have been a pleasant surprise all year. You heard me a couple of weeks ago. I'm like 4-6 on the road. Absolutely not. I'm sitting here. I'm all in. I'm waiting. I'm watching. They're rounded in the playoff form where I just see the Yankees going, almost like they're limping to the finish line. And we all seen what happened when the Mets limped to the finish line a few years ago, and the Yankees did. They get smacked around before you know it. They're sitting on the outside looking in going, what did we do wrong?
You said the key there, Larry, and thank you for the call. The Yankees just feel like, it'll turn on. They've been saying that for months. We'll get there. It's all right there in front of us. We'll get there. 20 games left. And they're going the wrong way. Again, not necessarily, although in the standings, they're in second place, but they're not doing anything differently or anything better than what they've done for the majority of 3 months. And they're just waiting for it to change.
It's getting worse.
Right. It's getting worse as we're getting closer to October. All right, BT and Sal on the fan. More your calls on the side. We'll get to some football today as well. Can't wait for that. NFL season kicks off later on tonight. We'll work the Mets in to the conversation as well. 888-808.